1 year after the war ended, the galaxy looked completely different. The old empires were gone. The species that had ruled for thousands of years now lived under human protection. Admiral Bo-Ram Ku stood on the bridge of her flagship, the New Earth, as it orbited the former Draknari capital world. Through the windows, she could see the planet below. The cities were being rebuilt, but this time they were designed for all species, not just the warrior bugs who had lived there before. "How are the integration programs going?" she asked her aide. "Better than expected," replied Commander Sung Ho Na. "The Draknari are learning that cooperation brings better results than conquest." It had been a hard lesson. The bug-like aliens had spent their entire history fighting and taking what they wanted from weaker species. Now they had to learn how to work with others as equals. But humans were patient teachers. They did not punish the Draknari for their past crimes. Instead, they showed them new ways to find honor and purpose. Former Draknari warriors now worked as protectors for smaller species that had once been their slaves. The aliens who had spent centuries raiding and pillaging were learning to build instead of destroy. On the Velthan homeworld, Dr. Jae Young Lim walked through laboratories where alien and human scientists worked side by side. The tall, thin Velthans had always believed they were the smartest species in the galaxy. They were smart, but they had used their intelligence only for themselves. Now they were learning to share their knowledge with everyone. "The medical research is going well," reported Dr. Yo Jin Bei. "Velthan brain implants can help humans think faster, and human emotional understanding can help Velthans relate to other species better." The combination was powerful. Velthan logic combined with human intuition was solving problems that neither species could handle alone. Diseases that had killed millions were being cured. Technologies that seemed impossible were becoming real. But the most important changes were happening in Astari space. The psychic aliens had used their mental powers to control and manipulate other species for millennia. They had ruled by making others afraid to think for themselves. General Kyungmi-oh oversaw the rehabilitation centers where former Astari leaders were learning new ways to use their abilities. Instead of reading minds to find secrets and weaknesses, they were learning to help with healing and education. "It is strange," said former High Counselor Zephyrian, as he worked with human children who had learning problems. "I spent my life taking thoughts from others. Now I give knowledge to those who need it." The work was not easy for the Astari. They had to overcome thousands of years of thinking they were superior to everyone else. But humans had shown them something they had never seen before. A species that was powerful, but chose to use that power to help instead of hurt. Throughout the galaxy, smaller species that had lived in fear for centuries were finally free. The Zephyrians, who looked like walking flowers, could now explore space without worrying about Draknari raiders. The Mollusk Collective could trade freely without Velthan computers stealing their profits. Ambassador Jae Young Lim met with representatives from these species in the new Galactic Council building. Unlike the old council chambers where only the three big empires had real power, this building was designed so every species had an equal voice. "The humans could have enslaved us all," said Councillor Petelsong of the Zephyrians. "Instead, they freed us from our enslavers." "Why?" asked Bubble Thought of the Mollusk Collective. "Humans are strong enough to rule everyone. Why do they choose to serve instead?" Jae Young smiled. "Because we learned something during our evolution that the old empires never understood. The strongest predator is not the one that kills everything else. It is the one that protects the ecosystem that feeds it. Earth had taught humans this lesson long ago. Apex predators that killed all their prey would starve. But apex predators that maintained balance could thrive forever. The new galactic civilization was based on this principle. Humans were clearly the most powerful military force, but they used that power to maintain peace and balance." In his office on Earth, Taemin read reports from across the galaxy. The rehabilitation programs were working. Former enemies were becoming partners. Species that had hated each other for millennia were learning to cooperate. But success came with its own problems. "Some of the younger humans are getting impatient," reported General Haewon Lim. "They think we are being too kind to the aliens who killed President Han." It was a concern that kept Taemin awake at night. The generation that had fought the war remembered why restraint mattered. But their children only saw humans being powerful and aliens being grateful. "What do you recommend?" Taemin asked. Education, Lim replied. Show them what happens when apex predators forget their responsibility. They created new programs in human schools. Students learned about Earth's history, about species that had become too successful and destroyed their own environments. They studied the old alien empires which had become so focused on power that they forgot how to adapt and change. Most importantly, they learned about President Yoon Ji-han and her dream of a galaxy where different species could work together in peace. Dr. So-young Kim led these educational efforts. She had been there when the president died. She understood both the cost of war and the price of peace. President Han did not die for human victory, she told a classroom of young humans and aliens studying together. She died for galactic cooperation. Our job is to make sure her sacrifice meant something. The memorial to President Han stood in the center of the new galactic capital, a space station called Harmony Point. Representatives from every species came there to learn about the human leader who had died trying to build bridges between worlds. But the memorial also told another story. It showed what happened when those bridges were burned by hatred and fear. It displayed the recordings of the assassination, the evidence of how the three empires had worked together to murder an innocent woman. Remember, the memorial said in 100 languages, what happens when apex predators are forced to hunt. 5 years after the war, Taemin was an old man. His hair was gray and his hands shook sometimes, but his mind was still sharp. He stood in the same garden where President Han was buried, thinking about how much had changed. Captain Dong-hyun Lee, now admiral, joined him at the grave. Do you think she would be proud of what we built? Taemin thought about the question for a long time. The galaxy was peaceful now, but that peace had come through overwhelming force. Billions of aliens lived better lives, but only because humans had proven they could destroy anyone who threatened that peace. She would be proud of the result, he said finally. But she would have found a better way to achieve it. Would she? Dong-hyun asked. The aliens never listened to words. They only understood strength, it was true. For 50 years, humans had tried to build relationships through diplomacy and cooperation. The aliens had responded by treating them like slaves and eventually murdering their greatest leader. Only when humans revealed their true strength did the aliens begin to listen. Maybe that is the lesson, Taemin said. Peace is not the absence of strength. Peace is strength used wisely. The galaxy had learned that humans were apex predators who chose restraint. That choice made them more dangerous than any species that ruled through fear alone, because it meant their power was controlled by wisdom instead of emotion. Children now played in parks on worlds that had once been battlefields. Families traveled between stars without fear of pirates or raiders. Scientists from different species worked together to solve problems that affected everyone. But in the human military bases scattered throughout the galaxy, soldiers still trained every day. They practiced fighting enemies that might never come, preparing for wars that might never happen, because the universe was still a dangerous place. And somewhere out there beyond the edges of known space, other apex predators might be watching and waiting. The galaxy had learned to fear human kindness, because it came with the promise of human vengeance. As long as beings remembered what happened to those who murdered President Han, peace would continue. Taemin walked slowly back toward the government buildings, where the daily work of maintaining galactic civilization continued. Behind him, President Han's grave was covered with flowers from 100 different worlds. Her dream of cooperation had come true, but not in the way she had imagined. The galaxy was united now, but united under the protection of a species that had proven it could destroy anyone who threatened that unity. It was not the peace she had wanted, but it was the peace the universe had chosen when it decided to test humanity's patience, and in the end, perhaps that was enough. The war began at exactly midnight Earth time. Across the galaxy, human agents pressed buttons, typed codes, and activated devices they had hidden for decades. Colonel Namgil Shin led the first strike. His target was the Draknari home fleet, 40 massive warships that protected their capital world. The aliens thought these ships were invincible. They had won 1,000 battles with them. But Namgil's team had spent 5 years working as mechanics on those same ships. They knew every weakness, every blind spot, every way to make the mighty vessels destroy themselves. Phase 1, Namgil whispered into his communicator. Throughout the Draknari fleet, small bombs exploded inside critical systems. The aliens had never checked their human workers very carefully. They thought humans were too primitive to understand advanced technology. The flagship of the fleet, the Pride of Draknon, suddenly lost power to its main engines. Emergency lights flashed as the ship began drifting toward its own defensive minefield. "What is happening?" roared Admiral Grexvor, the Draknari fleet commander. His bridge crew worked frantically at their controls, but nothing responded. The ship's computer had been reprogrammed by human agents years ago. Every command the aliens gave made things worse. Meanwhile, in space around the fleet, human ships appeared from nowhere. They had been hiding behind asteroids and inside gas clouds. Their stealth technology was 50 years ahead of anything the aliens had seen. The human vessels were smaller than the Draknari warships, but they moved like hunting animals. They struck fast and disappeared before the aliens could fight back. Captain Woojin Han commanded the lead human ship. He was President Han's nephew, and his heart burned with the need for revenge. His ship, the Earth's Fury, moved between the alien vessels like a shark among whales. "Target their weapon systems first," Woojin ordered. "I want them helpless, not dead." "Not yet?" Dr. Yeo Jinbei watched the battle from the human command ship. She was an expert in how alien minds worked. Her job was to break their will to fight. "Begin psychological phase," she announced. Suddenly, every screen on every Draknari ship showed the same image: President Han being murdered at the peace conference. The recording played over and over, showing exactly how the aliens had planned and executed the assassination. But that was not the worst part. Dr. Bay had also included recordings of what the aliens said when they thought no humans could hear them. They laughed about killing the weak human leader. They joked about how easily humans could be fooled. "We know what you did," a voice said in perfect Draknari language. "We know you planned it together. We know you think we are weak." Admiral Grexvor tried to turn off the screens, but the human virus had taken complete control of his ship's systems. "You are about to learn," the voice continued, "what weak really means." The Pride of Draknon's own weapons turned toward the ship next to it. The aliens watched in horror as their flagship fired on their own fleet. Explosions lit up space as Draknari ships destroyed each other. In 3 hours, the entire home fleet was dead or surrendering. Not a single human ship was seriously damaged. At the same time, Mi-young Ryu was coordinating attacks across Velthan space. She was a master strategist who understood how to fight a war on 100 fronts at once. The Velthans relied on their advanced computer networks to control their empire. Every ship, every base, every factory was connected to the central system. They thought this made them stronger. Mi-young had spent 20 years learning how to turn that strength into weakness. "Execute Virus Protocol 7, she ordered. Throughout Velthan space, their own computers began to rebel. Navigation systems sent ships into asteroid fields. Factory machines started building bombs instead of useful products. Communication networks began broadcasting human propaganda. But the cruelest part was what happened to the Velthans themselves. Their brain implants, which made them super intelligent, suddenly started showing them things that were not there. They saw human soldiers everywhere, even when they were alone. They heard human voices threatening them in empty rooms. The most advanced species in the galaxy was driven insane by their own technology. Dr. Minho Jiang led the assault on Astari space. The psychic aliens thought they were safe because they could read human thoughts. They believed they would always know what the humans planned to do. They were wrong. Jiang's ships carried special equipment that blocked psychic powers completely. When the Astari tried to read human minds, they found nothing but static. For the first time in their history, they were blind to their enemies' thoughts. Worse, the human ships generated fields that disrupted Astari brains. The aliens who had ruled through mental power suddenly could not think clearly. Some forgot how to speak. Others forgot their own names. "This is impossible," said Astari High Counselor Zephyrian as human ships surrounded his capital world. "We are the masters of the mind." "You were," replied General Kyungmyo as her soldiers landed on the planet's surface. "But you never learned to master anything else." The human soldiers wore armor that protected them from psychic attacks. They moved through Astari cities like ghosts, capturing important buildings and leaders without firing a shot. The Astari tried to use their mental powers to make the humans afraid, but it did not work. Humans had evolved to feel fear and keep fighting anyway. Earth had taught them that terror was just another obstacle to overcome. Throughout the galaxy, the 3 great empires fell in days. Their fleets were destroyed or captured. Their leaders were prisoners or dead. Their people hid in their homes, afraid to come outside, but the humans were not finished. Sujin Cho sat in her intelligence center, watching reports come in from every corner of space. Her screens showed the complete collapse of alien military power. Phase 2 is complete, she announced to the human high command. All major alien forces are neutralized. Begin Phase 3, Taemin ordered. Phase 3 was not about destroying the aliens. It was about making sure they never forgot what happened when they challenged humanity. Human forces began visiting every alien world, every space station, every colony. They did not come as conquerors who wanted to rule. They came as teachers who wanted to educate. Every alien was forced to watch the recording of President Han's assassination. They saw how their leaders had planned murder while talking about peace. They learned how their governments had lied to them about human weakness, but they also saw something else. They saw recordings of human history, the wars, the plagues, the disasters that had shaped humanity into apex predators. They learned about Earth, a world so dangerous that most aliens could not survive there for a day. Your leaders told you we were weak, General Kyung Mi-oh said to a gathering of Draknari civilians. But weakness and restraint are not the same thing. She showed them videos of human soldiers training, men and women who could run for hours without stopping, who could fight multiple opponents at once, who could solve complex problems while under attack. We chose to be peaceful, the general continued, but when you murdered our president, you took that choice away from us. On Velthan worlds, human engineers dismantled the computer networks that had controlled every aspect of alien life. They replaced them with simpler systems that could not be used to oppress people. Your technology made you smart, Dr. Zhang explained to Velthan scientists, but it also made you dependent. When we took it away, you became helpless. In Astari space, human doctors worked to repair the brain damage caused by the psychic dampening fields, but they also installed new devices that would prevent the Astari from using their mental powers to hurt others. Your minds are powerful, Dr. So-Young Kim told a group of Astari leaders, but power without wisdom is just another form of weakness. The war was over in less than a month. 3 empires that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years were broken and defeated, but no alien worlds were destroyed. No species was wiped out. Instead, they were all given the same choice. They could accept human protection and guidance, or they could be left alone to face the chaos their leaders had created. Most chose to accept human help. The galaxy learned a lesson that day. Humans were not the weak species they appeared to be. They were patient hunters who had spent 50 years studying their prey. When apex predators finally decided to hunt, the prey never saw them coming until it was too late. In his command center, Taemin watched the last alien surrender being broadcast across the galaxy. The 3 empires that had seemed so powerful were now begging for mercy. Is this what President Han wanted? Captain Dong-hyun asked quietly. Taemin thought about the woman who had died believing in peace and cooperation. She would have been horrified by the war, but maybe she would have understood the justice of it. She wanted a galaxy where people could live without fear, he said finally. Now they can. The funeral for President Han was quiet. Only humans came. The alien ambassadors sent messages of sympathy but did not attend. They said they were too busy with important work. Taemin stood at the grave as they lowered the casket into Earth's soil. Thousands of people came to say goodbye. She had been loved by everyone who believed in peace. But in the crowd, Taemin saw other faces. Admiral Sang Woo-yoon was there with his officers. General Haewon Lim came from the hidden military bases. Dr. Min Ho-jung arrived from the secret weapons labs. They all wore civilian clothes, but Taemin knew who they really were. After the ceremony, these people followed Taemin to a building deep underground. The elevator went down for 2 minutes before stopping. The doors opened to show a room full of computers and screens. Welcome to what President Han never wanted to see, Admiral Yoon said. The screens showed space maps with thousands of red dots. Each dot was a human military base that the aliens did not know about. Hidden shipyards in asteroid fields, weapon factories on dead planets, fleets waiting in dark space between the stars. How long have we been preparing? Taemin asked. Since the day we joined the Federation, General Lim replied. She was a tall woman with steel gray hair. President Han said we should trust the aliens. But she also said we should be ready if trust failed. Dr. Yang pulled up new screens. They showed weapons that looked nothing like human technology. We have been studying alien biology for 50 years. Every weakness, every fear, every way to hurt them. The Draknari had hard shells that protected them from most weapons. But Dr. Zhang had invented sound devices that could crack those shells from the inside. The frequency was exactly right to shatter their bone structure. The Velthans had computer implants in their brains that made them super smart. But the same implants could be overloaded with electromagnetic pulses. When that happened, they became helpless as babies. The Astari used their big brains to read minds and move objects with thought. But human scientists had built machines that blocked psychic powers completely. In those fields, the Astari could not even think clearly. What about ships? Captain Dong Hyun asked. Admiral Yoon smiled for the first time since the president died. Follow me. They took a shuttle to the moon. On the dark side, away from Earth, massive doors opened in the gray rock. Inside was a shipyard bigger than any city. Hundreds of ships floated in the construction bays. They looked almost alien, but with human improvements. The hulls were covered in armor that could stop any known weapon. The engines were twice as fast as anything the aliens had built. We told the galaxy that our faster-than-light technology was weak, Admiral Yoon explained. That was a lie. We can travel farther and faster than any alien ship. The weapons on these ships were not the simple projectile guns that humans used in public. They were energy cannons powered by small stars, missiles that could track targets across solar systems, and bombs that could crack planets. How many ships? Taemin asked. 15,000 combat vessels, General Lim replied, plus support ships, carriers, and planetary assault craft. Ji-hoon Park joined them on the observation deck. He was Taemin's son, but they had not spoken in years. Ji-hoon worked for the military in ways that Taemin was not supposed to know about. Hello, father, Ji-hoon said. He wore the black uniform of special operations. Are you ready to stop pretending we are weak? What is your mission? Taemin asked. I command teams that have been living among the aliens for 20 years. We work as laborers, technicians, and servants. But we have been mapping every military base, every fleet formation, every important facility. Su Jin-cho stepped out of the shadows. She was a small woman who looked harmless, but her eyes were as cold as space. My people monitor every alien communication. We know their battle plans before their own generals do. She activated a hologram that showed the entire galaxy. Green dots marked human positions. Red dots showed alien military forces. Blue lines connected alien communication networks. When President Han was alive, we used this information to avoid conflicts, Su Jin said. Now we will use it to end conflicts permanently. The hologram zoomed in on alien space. Thousands of human agents were marked throughout the three empires. They had jobs in weapon factories, shipyards, and command centers. Some had worked there for decades, earning trust and access. One signal from Earth and every alien military system will start destroying itself, Su Jin continued. Their own computers will turn against them. Their weapons will fire on their own ships. Their navigation systems will send fleets into stars. Dr. So Young Kim studied the displays with amazement. You have been preparing for total war. No, Admiral Yoon corrected. We have been preparing for total victory. War suggests the outcome is in doubt. A new screen showed Earth's colonies that the aliens thought were weak and poorly defended. But the images revealed the truth. Every human settlement had underground bunkers, hidden weapon installations, and camouflaged military equipment. The mining operations in dangerous asteroid fields were actually massive industrial complexes. Humans had built factories in places where alien ships could not safely travel. They used the radiation and space storms as natural defenses. The Kepler Belt mining rights they gave us, General Lim said with a cold smile. We have turned it into the largest weapons manufacturing center in the galaxy. Taemin walked among the displays, understanding how completely the aliens had been fooled. Humanity had spent 50 years playing weak while becoming the most powerful military force in known space. Why did President Han allow this? He asked. Because she was not naive, Admiral Yoon replied. She hoped we would never need to use these preparations. But she knew that hope was not a strategy. She believed the best way to avoid war was to be so ready for it that no one would dare attack us, Dr. Zhang added. She was right. Until they killed her, the room fell silent. Everyone there had respected President Han. Many had loved her. But her death had changed everything. What are our orders? General Lim asked. Timon thought about the president's last words. Show them what we really are. She had not meant show them human kindness or cooperation. She had meant show them human survival instincts. The aliens believe they killed our leadership and broke our spirit, Taemin said slowly. They think we will mourn quietly and accept their dominance. He turned to face the assembled military leaders. Each one commanded forces that could conquer star systems. They are wrong. We are not the weak species that begged for mining rights and accepted insults. We are the species that survived ice ages, plagues, and extinction events. We are the apex predators of Earth. The screens around them showed the hidden strength of humanity. Ships that could outfight anything in space. Weapons that could exploit every alien weakness. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Send the recall signal, Taemin ordered. Bring our fleets out of hiding. Activate all military installations. Contact our agents throughout alien space. Sujin's fingers moved over her console. Signal sent. All units are responding. What about the Galactic Council? Captain Donghyun asked. We will attend the next meeting, Taemin replied. But not as the weak junior members who beg for scraps. We will go as what we have always been. The lights in the command center changed from blue to red. Throughout human space, warships were powering up their weapons. Soldiers were putting on armor that could stop alien claws and energy beams. Pilots were climbing into fighters that moved like Earth's hunting birds. What are we? Ji-hoon asked his father. Taemin looked out at the stars where alien empires thought they ruled unopposed. Soon they would learn what happened when apex predators stopped pretending to be prey. We are the species that evolved in a world trying to kill us every day for millions of years, he said. And now we are going to remind the galaxy why that matters. 6 months passed after the Hope's dream died. The galaxy moved on like nothing happened, but humans remembered every name of the 50,000 people who were killed. President Eun Ji-han worked harder than ever for peace. She set up a big meeting on Haven's Rest, a space station in neutral territory. Leaders from all species would come to talk about working together. This could change everything, President Han told her chief of staff, Jin Seo. If we can show the galaxy that cooperation works better than war, maybe the killing will stop. Jin was worried. She had been the president's friend for 20 years. The aliens do not want cooperation. They want control. Then we must change their minds, President Han said with a smile. Violence only creates more violence. Peace takes courage. Young-ho Kang was in charge of security for the trip. He was a war veteran with scars on his face and hands. He had fought in the border wars before humans joined the Federation. He knew how to kill, but he also knew how to protect. I do not like this, Young-ho told Taemin. Too many aliens, too many ways to attack, not enough of our people. The president wants to trust them, Taemin replied. We must do our job and keep her safe. Trust gets people killed, Young-ho said quietly. Haven's Rest was a beautiful station. It floated between 3 suns with gardens and art from 100 different worlds. The meeting hall was made of crystal that showed the stars outside. President Han arrived with a small group. Besides Taemin and Young-ho, she brought Dr. So Young Kim to study alien behavior and Captain Dong-hyun Lee to command their single escort ship. The alien leaders came with huge fleets and hundreds of guards. They said it was for ceremony, but Young-ho saw it as a threat. General Vexthar arrived in a ship as big as a city. Counselor Zithara brought 20 vessels full of robot soldiers. Asthari Counselor Nethron came with ships that looked like floating temples. Look at them, Dr. So Young whispered to Taemin. They are not here for peace. They are here to show power. The first day went well. President Han spoke about trade, sharing technology, and protecting smaller species. The aliens listened politely and said nice words. But Young-ho noticed they were always watching the humans. Something is wrong, he told Taemin. The alien guards are moving differently. They are getting ready for something. Ready for what? Taemin asked. I do not know, but my soldiers feel it too. On the second day, President Han gave her big speech. The crystal hall was full of beings from across the galaxy. News cameras broadcast to billions of worlds. We stand at a choice, President Han said. Her voice was warm and strong. We can continue fighting over territory and resources, or we can work together to build something better. The alien leaders sat in the front row. They looked bored and impatient. Earth offers friendship to all species, the president continued. We have learned that survival comes not from being the strongest, but from helping each other. In the crowd, Young-ho saw alien guards moving slowly toward the exits. His hand moved to his weapon, but he could not draw it without causing a scene. Together, we can explore new worlds, cure diseases, and create art that shows the beauty of our differences, President Han said. This is my dream for our galaxy. That was when the attack started. Energy weapons fired from 3 directions at once. Velthan beam rifles cut through the air. Draknari explosive rounds shook the crystal walls. Astheri mind blasters tried to confuse and panic everyone. Young-Ho threw himself in front of President Han, but there were too many weapons firing. A Velthan energy beam hit him in the chest, burning through his armor. He fell, still trying to protect her. Taemin grabbed the president and pulled her behind a stone pillar. "Stay down," he shouted. His own weapon was in his hand, firing at alien guards who had suddenly become enemies. Captain Dong Hyun's voice came over the radio. "The alien fleets are moving. Our ship is surrounded." Dr. So Young was recording everything with her tablet, even as explosions shook the building. "It is all 3 species," she called out. "They planned this together." The attack lasted only 3 minutes. When it was over, President Han lay bleeding in Taemin's arms. Young-Ho was dead. Half the human security team was dead, but somehow none of the alien leaders were hurt. "Show them," President Han whispered to Taemin. Her eyes were closing. "Show them what we really are." Those were her last words. The alien leaders acted shocked and sad. General Vexthar said, "Terrible tragedy. Unknown terrorists attacked the peace meeting." Counselor Zithara added, "We will find who did this. Justice will be served." Asthari Counselor Nethron sent thoughts of sympathy, but Taemin could feel his satisfaction underneath. Dr. So Young worked quickly with her equipment. She scanned the weapons and explosive residue. Her tablet showed the truth. Energy signatures from Velthan military rifles, explosive chemicals used only by Draknari armies, and psychic patterns that matched Asthari war psychers. "It was them," she whispered to Taemin. "All of them. They worked together to kill her." Captain Dong Hyun fought his way to the meeting hall. His uniform was torn and bloody. "Our ship took heavy damage, but we can still fly. We need to leave now." The aliens offered to help investigate. They said they would find the terrorists and make them pay. But their eyes were cold and satisfied. Taemin carried President Han's body to their damaged ship. Janae Seo cried quietly as they prepared for the trip home. The galaxy's news said it was a terrorist attack by unknown enemies. Nobody talked about how the alien fleets moved perfectly together during the attack. Nobody mentioned that the alien leaders knew exactly where to be safe. Nobody asked why only humans died. During the long trip back to Earth, Taemin sat in the captain's chair and thought about President Han's last words. She had spent her life building bridges between species. She believed that peace was possible if people just tried to understand each other. The aliens had killed her for that belief. Dr. So Young brought him her final report. "The evidence is clear. This was planned for months, maybe years. They waited for the perfect moment. Why?" Taemin asked, though he already knew. Because she was bringing the galaxy together. Small species were starting to listen to her. Some young aliens were questioning the old ways. The 3 empires saw her as a threat to their control. Captain Dong Hyun joined them on the bridge. "Admiral Yoon is waiting for our report. He wants to know what really happened." Taemin looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the aliens were celebrating. They thought they had won. They thought they had removed the only human who could challenge their power. They did not understand what they had really done. President Han was not just a leader. She was the voice that said humans should be better than their violent past. She was the reason Earth's military stayed hidden. She was the moral force that kept humanity's true nature locked away. Now she was dead. "Send a message to Admiral Yoon," Taemin said quietly. "Tell him the president is gone. Tell him the mission has changed." "What mission?" Captain Dong Hyun asked. Taemin's eyes reflected the starlight like a predator in the dark. "The mission to show the galaxy what apex predators really look like." Behind them, President Han's body lay covered by an Earth flag. She had died believing in peace and cooperation. But the galaxy had chosen war instead. Soon, they would understand the difference between fighting humans who chose restraint and fighting humans who chose survival. Commander Taemin Park sat quietly in the big meeting room. Around him, alien voices spoke loudly about dividing up space territories. The room was huge, with glass walls that showed the stars outside. But Taemin felt small here. 3 alien species ruled the galaxy. The Draknari looked like giant bugs with hard shells. They loved war and fighting. The Velthans were tall and thin, with metal parts in their bodies. They thought they were the smartest. The Astari had big heads and could read minds. They believed they were the most important. All three species looked down on humans. They thought Earth people were weak and stupid. The humans want mining rights in the Outer Rim, said General Vexthar. He was a Draknari with scars all over his shell. Why should we give good territory to primitives? Taemon's hand stayed calm on the table, but inside he was angry. Humans had been part of the Galactic Federation for 50 years. Still, the aliens treated them like children. Our ships are weak, laughed Counselor Zythara. She was a Velthan with silver eyes. Their weapons are old. They cannot even travel faster than light properly. Dr. So-Young Kim sat next to Taemon. She was Earth's top scientist who studied aliens. Her face showed no emotion, but her fingers tapped quietly on her tablet. She was taking notes of everything the aliens said. Perhaps humans should focus on service jobs, said Astari Counselor Nethron. His voice went directly into their minds. Cleaning stations, carrying supplies, work that fits their abilities. Captain Dong-Hyun Lee stood against the wall. He was the captain of Earth's biggest ship, the New Soul. His military uniform looked simple next to the aliens' fancy clothes, but his eyes were sharp and watching everything. Young Hunwoo Choi, a new diplomat from Earth, moved forward. With respect, we have proven ourselves useful. Our colonies produce food and materials that— Silence, Vexthar's voice boomed. Children do not speak when adults are talking. Hyunwoo's face went red. Taemon put a hand on the young man's arm to stop him from saying something that would make things worse. We are grateful for any territory you allow us, Taemon said in a calm voice. Earth will accept whatever the Council decides. The aliens smiled. They thought Taemon was being weak. They did not know he was being smart. After the meeting, the human team walked to their small ship. The alien station was beautiful, with floating gardens and crystal towers. But humans were not allowed in the nice areas. How long do we have to take this? Hyunwoo asked angrily. As long as it takes, Taemon replied. Remember why we are here? So-Young checked her tablet. The Draknari just gave us rights to mine the Kepler belt. It is full of radiation and space storms. They think it will kill us. Dong-Hyun smiled for the first time that day. They think wrong. 3 months later, things went very bad. A human colony ship called the Hope's Dream was traveling to a new world. It carried 50,000 people, families, children, old people, and workers. They were excited to start a new life. The ship was big but not fancy. It had thick walls to protect against space rocks and radiation. Humans built things to last, not to look pretty. Near the border of Draknari space, 5 alien warships surrounded the Hope's Dream. The Draknari captain said they needed to search the human ship for weapons. We are civilians, Captain Kim Jae-sung of the Hope's Dream said over the radio. We have families on board. All human ships could be military, the Draknari replied. Your species is sneaky. The search took 6 hours. Draknari soldiers went through every room, scaring the children and breaking things. They found nothing dangerous because there was nothing to find. When they were done, the alien ship started to leave. Then something went wrong with their weapons. Energy beams fired accidentally at the Hope's Dream. The human ship tried to run, but it was too slow. The alien weapons cut through the hull like paper. Air rushed out into space. Emergency alarm screamed. Captain Jae-sung sent out a distress call. This is Hope's Dream. We are under attack! 50,000 civilians on board. The alien captain replied, Weapons malfunction. Very sorry. Suggest you abandon ship. But there were not enough escape pods. The Hope's Dream was a colony ship, not a military vessel. Most of the people had no way to escape. In 18 minutes, the ship broke apart. Pieces of metal and plastic floated in space. 50,000 human lives were gone. The news reached Earth in 2 days. President Yoon Ji-han called for an emergency meeting. She was a kind woman who always tried to solve problems with words, not violence. This was murder, Admiral Sang-woo-yoon said. He was an old soldier with gray hair and hard eyes. The Draknari did this on purpose. We cannot prove that, President Han replied sadly. And even if we could, what would we do? Fight the whole galaxy? Taemon was called back to Earth for the meeting. He sat in the president's office looking out at the blue sky and green trees. Earth was so peaceful compared to the cold space stations where aliens lived. The Draknari say it was an accident, President Han said. They offer to pay for new ships. Money cannot bring back 50,000 people, Taemin said quietly. No, the president agreed. But war would kill millions more. Admiral Yoon stood up. Ma'am, with respect, maybe it is time to show them what humans can really do. President Han looked at him with sad eyes. Sang-woo, we are better than that. We do not solve problems by killing. The meeting ended with no action. Earth would file a complaint with the Galactic Council. The aliens would say sorry and pay some money. Nothing would really change. But late that night, Taemin met with Admiral Yoon in a secret room under the government building. How long? Taemin asked. The fleet is ready now, Yoon replied. We have been ready for 10 years. The weapons? Better than anything the aliens have. The soldiers? Waiting for orders, Taemin nodded slowly. Not yet. The president believes in peace. As long as she leads us, we follow her way. And if something happens to her, Taemin's eyes went cold. Then we show the galaxy what humans learned during 1,000,000 years on Earth. Outside, the stars looked peaceful and quiet. But space was not peaceful. It was full of predators who thought humans were weak prey. Soon they would learn the truth about what survived on a world full of death.